least at that time on the issues that we are talking about. Okay? But any Kenyan who is genuinely concerned with the well-being of our nation has every reason to worry. Impunity is in the air, deceit is in the air. And I said we must obey the law. We cannot allow a situation where the custodians of the law are breaching it recklessly. We then have an opposition also that is getting entangled in several breaches of the law so that they end up losing the moral authority to check those in the system. We must correct ourselves.
What breaches, sir, within the opposition? Just for the purposes of our conversation, some specifics on the part of the opposition.
You really want me to go there?
Please.
Let me put it this way. A lot of events that occurred, including the process of a swearing in, was something that has left NASA in a rat-holed position. And as I've said...
Was the swearing in a breach of law?
Whatever you do must be anchored in constitutionalism. We must deal with the wrongs of this society, but we must also have the fidelity to the law.
Was the swearing in a breach of the Constitution, in your view, and of the laws of the land?
Can I just put it this way? I did not believe in it.
Is that the reason you didn't show up?
Is that what you want to know?
I think that's what Kenyans want to know.
I think what is important is that we must have constitutionalism. And I will always stand for constitutionalism.
Do you believe Raila still believes in that? Constitutionalism and the rule of law?
Why don't you ask him this question?
I'm asking you because you believe that there's been a breach.
I've told you what I don't believe in. But I think it is you now to seek a similar question and ask him.
Well, Mr Mudavadi, with all due respect, we would require some sort of specificity because there are certain issues that you talk about. Allow me to finish the trend of thought, sir.
If I've said that I believe in constitutionalism,
yes, sir, allow me to say this.
And whatever we do must be anchored in constitutionalism.
Right.
I've said it.
But you've mentioned very vaguely in this conversation about a number of breaches that have happened within the opposition. I mean, one would expect some sort of specificity if you are to expect Kenyans to hold those leaders to account when you say that even within the opposition, there is members of it who are not following the law. How would we start to fix the problem if you yourself are not specific about it?
If you moved into a country and a travel document is required as a passport, and you don't produce it, what are you doing?
So should he have produced his Canadian passport?
He said he didn't produce it, isn't it? Has anybody even followed up to ask him about it?
Do you think he is a victim of his own actions? That if he'd have acted differently on arrival at the airport, that he'd have been granted access?
I think in terms of questions like this, I also want to put it in conjecture. If I landed in Heathrow Airport today, or if I came from wherever and I landed in the airport today, I normally hand in my passport for stamping, for regularization. You see, there's the element of whether he was treated humanely or not. That is a different subject. But the process, let's follow it. When I go to the airport, okay, and I go to the airport, you go through screening. You remove your belt. You remove your shoes for you to be processed so that you can travel.
So the subsequent action, and you talk about how he was treated, you know, and whether that was done humanely or not. But then do you agree with the government's action to then remove him from the country? They called him an undocumented African man who was at the airport. Do you then agree with the subsequent action?
I've told you whether he was treated humanely or not, I look at it differently.
Okay.
I think there could have been a different way of treating him. And I'm sure if they looked at their legal options, they would have found